Hello everyone and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Happy Thursday. I hope you guys are doing well. Back at it with yet another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at Jupiter in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries. We are healing through the tension this holiday season. I'm going to break it down for you guys and tell you what this square means, how it's connected to the past, and how to work through some of the tension over the next week. It's all about emotional growth and deep healing in December. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm so excited to be touching on this video. And if you guys are new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click that bell button below so that way you can see more of my videos. I'm here Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays using tarot and astrology to make sense of what is going on in the cosmos. Don't forget to turn on those notifications so you can see my videos. And if this video resonates with you, please do give it a thumbs up, like the video. Sharing is caring. Consider sharing on your socials and drop me a comment below and let me know, are you feeling it? Do you have any planets around that 21 to 23 degrees of the cardinal signs? Leave me the comments. I can't always get back to all of them, but I do read them. And I just have to say this in advance, two things. Number one, big hugs to everybody with this transit because it is a stinker. Even if you don't have planets in these particular signs or degrees, I still think that we're gonna feel it. I'm optimistic that the Venus trine is gonna help us through. And this was not on my content bingo card. So honestly, guys, I usually create content schedules like a month in advance. So I know what video I'm gonna be putting out as the transits are happening in real time. But this one kind of caught me by surprise. And a couple days ago, I turned around and I was like, what is going on? Of course, your girl's got a 22-degree Aries moon. I've been dealing with a Chiron transit for the last year. It's been fun. But I was like, you know what? This is a great opportunity, I think, to talk about it. So I will let that marinate, and we'll get into the rest of the video. Now, today we're diving deep into quite an intense transit, and truth be told, not everybody's going to see it. Not everybody's going to see it, but we're going to feel it. And this holiday season, we're seeing Jupiter retrograde in Cancer at 22 degrees, forming an opening square to Chiron retrograde in Aries at 22 degrees. Now, this exact square is going to be happening on December the 21st, 2025. But if you guys are watching this on the 18th, 19th, you're probably already feeling it. Now, it's perfect timing for family gatherings, right? And that's probably why there's a little bit of tension in the air, because we're really dealing with the identity, our own kind of personal energies, our own vitality, our goals with Chiron and Aries, and that complex pressure that's coming from Jupiter in Cancer when it comes to home, family, housing, as well as nurturing. So it's been stirring up some deep emotional stuff for us for some time. This is actually the second square that we have seen between Jupiter and Chiron. Now, we'll get more to that in a second, but this aspect is going to be hitting hardest for anybody who has planets, basically, I would say around maybe 20 to 24 degrees of the cardinal signs. So this is where it pays to know your chart. Pull your chart out, take a look at it. Even if you don't have anything between 20 to 24 of Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, take a look at where Aries is in your chart. Take a look at where Jupiter is in your chart. And this is where we're seeing some pressure. Now, Sagittarius risings, you guys are going to feel this too. Obviously, you're kind of experiencing a square involving your chart ruler, Jupiter in Cancer. So you're also getting a big nudge here since Jupiter rules your chart. Now we're going to break it all down. We're going to talk about what it means because I think this transit really isn't just about tension. It's about real healing and growth. So first of all, in astrology, when you see a square, really what it means is it's this push and pull energy that's kind of opening and closing. And usually through retrogrades, you'll see sometimes aspects that will happen several times. And really what it brings up is a lot of friction that really forces us to kind of like level up in our life. So yes, they seem challenging. They're also where the magic happens, and nothing really grows in total comfort. Now, cardinal squares energy, they are initiators, right? These are the signs that initiate the seasons. So they don't really ask to poke and prod you. They just start kind of bringing things up and initiating things that's trying to get you to heal a wound in this case. So this square is really going to kick us into action, even if it feels a little uncomfortable this week at first. And like I said, this is actually the second phase of the Jupiter Chiron square. So the last one that we had, which was the first one that took place between Chiron and Aries and Jupiter in Cancer, took place around October 23rd, 2025. So you might want to kind of think back to what was happening at the end of October. Where were there some feelings and some emotions, maybe even some frustration that was kind of coming up? Did you experience any old insecurities around home, family, or did your sense of self kind of like get checked then? Because maybe those feelings with Chiron and Aries of not being, enough, or the struggles that kind of come up with independence versus, needing emotional support, or maybe home and family changes, now they are re-emerging. This time around though, we see both Jupiter and Chiron retrograde. And I think because that was round one, now with Jupiter retrograde and Chiron retrograde, we're kind of revisiting these themes for a much deeper review. So a lot of this is internal. It doesn't always manifest as external. And if we look ahead, there will actually be another square that's going to be taking place down the road. I'll just show this to you guys really quickly. This will be around July 1st, 2026. And this one's a little different. It's going to be different because it's going to be the same aspect, but it's going to be hitting in different signs. So by the time we get to this point in time, we're actually going to have Jupiter that's at 0 degrees of Leo, and it is going to be squaring Chiron at 0 degrees of Taurus. So we will see the first one in October, then we're seeing this one that's kind of heating up right around the holidays in December, and then one more 6 months from now. Now that one's different because we're going to have the square happening at 0 degrees. So it's kind of carrying over some of the things that were initiated from the square in December. It's also holding that energy. We know that fixed squares, they don't like to change. And so there is a possibility that this is going to kick up some pretty big drama, some pretty big changes revolving around finances and resources, self-esteem, pleasure with Chiron in Taurus. And Jupiter in Leo is going to, I think, be more drama revolving around creativity, self-expression, and obviously a lot of drama that's going to be happening with leaders and the markets. So something to kind of think about is that one will feel like a fresh start. It's shifting from some of the emotional wounds that are coming up with Jupiter in Cancer to something that's going to be a little bit more grounded, and it's probably going to be some like dietary changes we're making, changes with our resources, maybe incorporating healing themes of Taurus, like working with herbalism, working with aromatherapy, crystal therapy, things like that, to really kind of heal and unlock the heart space with the square to Jupiter in Leo. So we'll take a look at that next year, but I think that it's going to be a little bit easier to manage than some of these cardinal squares. Now let's go back to December of 2025, and we're taking a look at Jupiter in Cancer. So I really want to focus on that first. So, Jupiter moves through a new sign basically every year. It's been in Cancer for the last several months now. And when Jupiter's in Cancer, it's actually it's at home, it's comfortable. This is a sign where it's in its exaltation, cardinal water, a lunar sign, so it's connected to the moon. And Jupiter, when it's in this sign, is all about kind of expanding on the themes of home and family, maybe emotional security, maybe nurturing, connecting to our roots, connecting to our past. And it's that kind of cozy, protective vibe that we get with Jupiter in this sign. It's about growing through our roots, using our intuition, and also caring for ourselves and others that we love. But right now, Jupiter is retrograde, and it's going to be retrograde until about March of next year. It actually stationed retrograde back in November, and so it will be kind of hanging out in that retrograde for the next couple of months. And that's getting us to think about, okay, what does home really mean? Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it a zip code? Is it a, comfortable sweater, or, a familiar kind of family member or friend? And I think with that kind of connection to the moon in Cancer, the square that's kind of building, we're going to look at where the moon is at the time of this exact square. Now, oddly enough, let me move the clock ahead here so you guys can see the 21st. There we go. We are going to see the moon and Mars in conjunction, all right? So when we think about Jupiter in Cancer, it's got this kind of like expansive emotional vibe. When we think about Chiron in Aries, it's got this kind of fiery, feisty, needing to be the warrior within, needing to kind of, boost the self up, needing to be confident, brave, but also we have to tend to our wounds first. So we're looking at lunar energies, we're looking at Martian energies, and on the 20th of December, we're going to see Mars and the moon come into some kind of conjunction. So When we put this together on the other side, looking at what's happening with, the moon and that being the dispositor, that tie to Capricorn is really going to be about structure. It's going to be about boundaries. It's going to be about maturity and being in our own kind of like emotional world. Now with Chiron and Aries, this is really about dealing with that theme of the internal kind of wounds that we need to address. Chiron is known as the wounded healer. Everybody's got a Chiron placement in their chart. And if you happen to be somebody who's like in your late 50s, early 60s, you've been going through some of like the Chiron return stuff. So this is the part of us that's been hurt, and it really holds incredible wisdom once we know how to face it and deal with it head on in Aries. Now, it can also mean that our wounds actually revolve around our identity, issues when it comes to independence, maybe asserting ourselves and feeling like we have the right to exist just as we are. And Chiron retrograde during this time of the square, it will actually station direct shortly after this, is super introspective. It's really pulling us, I think, to kind of revisit old battles with like a new sense of self-confidence or feeling left out from the start. I also think that with this being an opening square, so the opening square represents that we are needing to kind of grow and we need to kind of heal and evolve from some of our old wounds, be that emotional, physical, spiritual. And at a 22, there is this kind of Capricorn energy that's kind of linking up as well. That's talking about things that have been hanging around for a long time, right? 22 correlates with Capricorn. It represents work issues, blockages, issues with bosses, problems with superiors, issues also with parenting. So there could be parenting issues coming up, issues in relationships to parents. And I just think the synchronicity of, the 22 and the connection to Moon and Mars and Capricorn, and then that square is telling me that a lot of individuals are really probably facing over the holiday season this feeling of, where do I belong? Maybe feeling like some black sheep energy in the family, or kind of feeling like the home or the holidays are different this year, or maybe that, there are some longstanding issues with relatives, or kind of dealing with older parents or older relatives can be a bit of a challenge and can definitely bring up some wounds. Now, Mars rules Aries, and something that we're kind of seeing is Mars is in its exaltation in Capricorn. So it is actually moving through this sign for the next 6 weeks. We've been riddled with just a ton of squares over the last week. We've had Sun square Saturn, we're coming into Sun square Neptune, where we feel like we're just kind of a little, feeling a little heavy, or there is like lack of energy or lack of vitality, or maybe feeling kind of confused. And we're going to see Venus that's going to come in for the square with Saturn over the next couple of days as well, which is going to talk about some disappointments, maybe with love and money or relationships. And then finally, Mercury will come through that square as well. So it's almost like on one hand, Mars is like, no, we have to keep up the good fight. We have to keep moving along, while other people can feel like they are starting to lose the vision or lose the momentum. And with Saturn and Neptune in the late degrees of Pisces, I think a lot of people are kind of freaked out and they're worried about, what is going to happen next year, and are things safe? I will say this. I saw a couple of astrologers on Twitter this week that was like, the end of the year, the astrology is trash, and forget it. It doesn't matter. And, there's no point in even trying to the new year. And I feel like that is the more negative side, I think, of some of these kind of squares that we're seeing between Sagittarius and Pisces. I think that actually, if we lose the optimism, and if we lose the motivation, and if we lose the faith, then we're kind of throwing in the towel, and we're not really seeing the bigger picture. And I think really what's going on this week is like a test of faith. But simultaneously, we're also seeing this Jupiter Chiron square. And it's important to take into consideration that Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius and Pisces. And when we see these two sides kind of duke it out, it talks about issues in regards to culture clashes, religious clashes, issues revolving around, belief systems, issues revolving around travel. And you're going to see a lot of people who are going to be having very polarizing, and I think conflicting, because squares are conflicting, or combative types of perspectives about some of these topics. And so the fact that it's happening around the holiday season is kind of a bummer. I will tell you guys that this is like the last hurrah, because once we get into the new year, Saturn and Neptune will finally move into Aries. And I think that we're going to be more focused on what's going on with ourselves individually, not getting lost in, kind of the chaos or the confusion of needing to, kind of stick our hands and our noses in different areas of things that we either don't understand, we can't comprehend, we don't have all the facts, we don't have all the figures. And honestly, it's kind of like a lost in translation vibe, especially when you're seeing, you know, Mercury that's coming into the mix as it's squaring the north and south node. So there's a lot of misunderstandings, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of things that are being manipulated in the media and things that are being taken out of context, which could really rile a lot of people up, and it can create a lot of racial and culture and like religious conflicts. I think it's safe to say that a lot of people are kind of looking at that Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's going to be building in the new year, and you know, I see it as kind of being like a holy war. So there will probably be some tensions that will come from this as a result of, you know, either culture or international relations, or potentially even issues revolving around religious conflicts, or, you know, some kind of attacks. But when I think about, you know, Mars being in Capricorn, I would say like, this is now not the time to give up. This is the time to pay attention to what's kind of coming up emotionally, because it's only through the retrogrades that if we're able to look within, or if we are able to look back on where there has been some of this conflict and some of this division, it has actually made us feel more isolated and more alone. And that could be in our own families, that can be in our, you know, relationships with partners, that could be in our communities. And 22 degrees is just kind of saying, you know, this has been a long time coming, or this has been going on for a long time. Are we ready to finally wave the white flag? Are we ready to have peace? Are we going to drop the grudges? Are we going to let some of that stuff go? I like Mars's connection to this. I think it's very grounded. It's got a lot of drive to take responsibility for our healing. And it's like the universe's way of saying, okay, I feel the feelings, but it's time to now take the feelings into consideration and build something that's going to be more solid, or more so sustainable. Now that 22 degrees, as many of you guys have heard, if you follow degree astrology, you know that it's a pretty gnarly degree. It's referred to as the kill or be killed degree. And as somebody who has a 22 degree Aries moon, I'm still here. So I don't know, the jury's still out, but I could definitely see, you know, there being some very intense tension going on revolving around military, governments, anything revolving around news connecting to people who are in the service, just because of that 22. And then we see the dispositors of Chiron and Jupiter meeting in the sky the day of the square. So it's going to actually be happening very early morning at around, I'm Central Time here in Texas, around 7 a.m. on December 20th. So military actions, you know, military, you know, movements, decisions that are being made. And obviously all of this is taking orders from Saturn, which is now direct conjunct Neptune. So I think it's going to be a lot of surprising news coming up regarding, you know, governments making comments and making statements about what's going on with the global economy. Now, Pisces deals with everyone. It's not really focusing so much on one city, one state, one country, one, you know, place. It's about all of us collectively. And probably what we're going to be kind of finding out, whether that's going to be through news, media, screens, TV, whatever, this is Pisces stuff, that, you know, there is some information pertaining to intense, you know, actions, or, you know, moves that are being made, or people taking necessary steps forward to protect things. And this could be naval bases, this could be coastal cities, this could be anything revolving around private spaces, temples, churches, even anything connecting to spirituality or kind of religion. And I do feel like this is about leaders coming out and making comments, basically saying, look, this isn't good for our communities. You know, if we're having some kind of culture clash, or, you know, religious clashes that are going on, and you're going to see people who are going to be taking a little bit more of like a firm stance in regards to their leadership. And usually, you know, Pisces can be a little bit more forgiving. It can be a little bit more empathic. Certainly Saturn, Neptune has been a little bit more sad and kind of like mourning. But when we think about that 22 degrees, it's a powerful one. It is known as a master builder number, and it carries this intensity of transforming under pressure. And I think that that is the tie to Saturn, to Mars and the moon, and also to the square. So it's not really about destruction so much. I think it's about kind of breaking through something, so that way we can actually build something that's much more strong. Now, the Sabian symbols that I was looking at would be 23 of Cancer and 23 of Aries, because we round up whenever we're looking at the Sabians. And so when I pulled those up, I got 23 degrees of Aries, a blown inward by the wind, and the curtains of an open window take shape of a cornucopia. So this is a Sabian symbol that's really about abundance flowing in when we open up, even if it feels vulnerable. And then for 23 degrees of Cancer, where Jupiter is, it's a meeting of a literary society. So this is about coming together, sharing ideas, anything revolving around stories, wisdom, but it's also about critiquing, refining, and growing through some kind of collective insight. So when we put these two Sabians together and we think about the square, it's this tension between, opening our personal window and letting that abundance in, maybe healing our identity wounds, and maybe it's about gathering in safe spaces to kind of process emotions and process beliefs. And the friction that actually really helps us integrate vulnerability, which will lead to more emotional richness. Now, I think overall the theme for this transit, really, it's going to be magnifying feelings around belonging versus independence. And so I think the Jupiter in Cancer of everybody getting together and being with family and friends over the holidays and celebrating, and that square could actually leave some individuals feeling like, well, I don't have a family, or, I'm estranged from a parent, or I don't have children, or my family's across the world, that kind of stuff. And it's definitely going to be bringing up for a lot of people old family patterns or insecurities about being seen, right? Because Chiron retrograde in Aries, it feels like nobody sees me, nobody hears me. And that'll bubble up, and we might find that we could overdo nurturing. So we could be smothering ourselves. Others could be, overdoing the food, or, consuming, or emotional eating, or spending. Or we could find that we are, swinging, to kind of push everyone away to prove, no, I'm fine on my own. I'm good. Don't worry, I'm fine. I have like a serious face, I'm good. But on the inside, there is like this cry out for help. So I think it's really highlighting our need for emotional security, and really where that's kind of clashing with fears of potential rejection or not being strong enough. Now, what do you want to watch for as this square is happening this week? Watch for emotional triggers over the holidays. I don't think you need an astrologer to kind of tell you that, the holidays can be really difficult for a lot of people. But I think with this kind of happening right over, the end of December, we're definitely going to see family dynamics that are going to be stirring up old hurts. Maybe it's about overthinking your worth. Maybe it's about, big feelings that are making small issues feel larger than life. But it can also mean that there's opportunities within that, and there's sudden insights that can come up into why exactly you felt stuck. Now, to navigate this, you want to actually lean into the Capricorn energy from Mars, because the moon and Mars are coming together. And sometimes, I think with the connection to Saturn, it's saying some of the most important things, some of the most mature things, most responsible things we can do is be kind to other people, forgive. Maybe it means that also that we have to, in some cases, create better emotional boundaries, so we're not feeling like we're taking everything on and we're kind of managing everything. And I think this is an important theme prior to going into January 2026, when we see a ton of planets go through Capricorn, oppose Jupiter, and square Chiron. And we're going to see where if we're doing too much work, too much home stuff, too much back and forth, or feeling that imbalance of trying to kind of be Superman or Superwoman and take it on, we're actually creating some of our own wounds. We're overextending ourselves. And I'm kind of curious. I want to look at, so it looks like Moon and Mars are going to conjunct right around 3-4 degrees of Capricorn. So let's see, 4 degrees of Capricorn. Did not have that on my notes either. But I would like to see what that Sabian symbol is, because it's obvious there's going to be something connected to that lunar transit that's going to kick this off. So 4 of Capricorn, that's what I'm looking at here. For those of you guys who are interested in the Sabian symbols, check out my book list in the description below. Here we go. A party entering a large canoe. The keyword is ordering. The theme is group support. So the symbol speaks to preparation, the preliminary planning that it precedes any special occasion or event. It also alludes to the fact that individuals often spend more time and energy getting ready to do something than actually doing it. The image of a party entering a large canoe emphasizes the group effort and cooperation. The suggestion here is that individuals need to be insecure, uncertain without the support of the group, and inclined to seek approval of their fellows before starting anything new. At its highest, the symbol represents a remarkable talent for organizing projects, marshaling resources, and getting people focused on accomplishing objectives. Watch for troublemaking, social insensitivity, and basic unfriendliness. The accent is on getting everything in order for some new undertaking. Maps or directions may be needed. Your greatest advantage lies in making sure that all involved have their roles clearly defined and have everything they need to hand in a complete project. Cooperation and agreement is important. Guard against sitting insisting that everything be done your way or not trusting others to know how to do their job. Everyone needs a chance to learn. Planning, preparation, organization, cooperation, arrangements, group effort, new experiences, trip, journey, and travel. So that's all associated with the moon Mars. We're going to see a lot of traveling going on, a lot of planets in Sag, just coming off of that Sag new moon. I think also the other thing that's kind of interesting is like, you know, I think of Capricorn and that connection to Saturn is like sometimes letting other people show you how to do something. I think it's an interesting thing as we're starting to see certain individuals that are kind of going into new phases in their life where maybe they are going from kind of being single to being in a relationship and then being brought into a family dynamic and then having to kind of take orders and stuff from like, you know, the moms and the dads in the family who are used to kind of running the holidays. And then other people who are going into a new phase where they're kind of segueing into starting their own lives and their own families, and feeling a little insecure or unsure, not wanting to step on anybody's, you know, toes, or, you know, kind of overdoing things or taking on roles or responsibilities that maybe in-laws or other family members or, you know, kind of like elders in the family have done. And so with that connection to Saturn and Neptune, I think a lot of it might also be, you know, letting other people, especially elders sometimes, have their moment, right? Letting them lead the way or letting them, you know, talk about their tradition. But it can also be the responsibilities revolving around running around and getting things done and, you know, being the person who has to kind of be the party coordinator for getting kids to places, getting family places, you know, making sure that you're orchestrating kind of holiday plans and meals and parties, and feeling just overextended in the process. So if you're experiencing that, I think a lot of it might be connected to this square. I also feel like there is a very strong tie to, like I said, sometimes learning that the most mature, responsible thing you can do is about forgiveness and being able to overlook sometimes long-standing issues, being able to kind of be the bigger person. And even though maybe there's been some family rifts or some things that have gone on, or maybe you have felt like there's a grudge, you've been scorned, you know, are you still willing to go and spend the holidays with that person? Are you still willing to bite your tongue and go and pick them up and bring them over or give them a gift and be kind to them? So I think there's a huge test of maturity that's kind of coming up with this for a lot of people, and the opportunity to really kind of have a turning point when it comes to some personal relational issues that you're having with family members that have been kind of hanging around for a long time. I do think it's important with that connection with Moon and Mars, like we're going to get frustrated, right? We're going to get frustrated. We're going to get frustrated at work. We're going to get frustrated probably feeling that there's just a lot of work and obligations that may also be kind of pulling at us or kind of pulling us away from, you know, personal time or family time just due to the nature of the opposition that's building in the square. So it's important to set gentle boundaries. And maybe that means that you're journaling more, you're talking it out with trusted people, you're doing some kind of inner work right now and really nurturing yourself without avoiding the wound. Unfortunately, Jupiter in Cancer can have a tendency to want to overeat, want to oversleep, you know, want to do all of the jolly things, but, you know, figure out what's actually going on and getting to the core of what's actually physically wrong. And so sometimes Jupiter in Cancer can show that, you know, excess weight, excess emotions, excess things are actually kind of tied to something that is weighing us down. So some of the wounding can be personal insecurities. It can also be with Chiron and Aries. I've seen a whole slew of people who are having sinus issues, migraines, bumping their head, hitting their head injuries, concussions, you know, strokes. And that doesn't mean everybody's going to have that, but definitely we can find that there's more of a tendency for migraines to be kicking up when there's a lot of emotions that we're kind of, kind of just holding within and not dealing with. We're just kind of compartmentalizing a lot of the things in our life. And then all of a sudden we're getting hit with bad allergies, bad sniffles, you know, ENT related kind of things. And that can be somehow kind of connected to emotions that have not been processed. So it's important to really nurture yourself without avoiding the wound. I think that's the gift of Chiron. So whether you're wanting to practice therapy, meditation, or, you know, cozy rituals that you can kind of do at home, and really be nurturing, you know, in a way that a parent would yourself, to really release some of that inner pressure that's coming up. Now, out in the world, totally different story. I think we're going to see lots of themes of collective wounds revolving around home and identity issues, security issues with family, you know, wounding when it comes to parents and relatives. I also think that we're going to see some themes coming up revolving around refugees and housing related matters in this next week or two, or leadership vulnerabilities that's kind of playing out in the news. Hopefully we'll also see waves of compassion and calls for healing. So with that being said, I'm going to get into the 12 rising signs. I'd like to show you guys where this Jupiter Chiron square is taking place Like I said, think back to what was going on around the end of October, so like the last 10 days of October, because this is a storyline that has been going on for some time. I am a Western astrologer. That is the astrology that I like to practice. And I really recommend listening to this from the perspective of your rising sign. So if you don't know your chart information, head over to astro.com, put in your time, date of birth, and your location. Look at the 9 o'clock hour. That's your ascendant. And then you can listen to that sign first to see exactly where this square is kind of playing out in your life, where there's tension between obviously Cancer and Aries. And also you can listen to your sun sign and you can listen to your moon sign. I actually do really recommend people listening to their moon sign because there's such a strong influence with the Moon-Mars conjunction, and also because Jupiter is a lunar sign that I think a lot of us really will benefit from listening to that, okay? All right, so remember, this is anyone also who's got anything, I would say 20 to 24 degrees of the cardinal signs, whether it's a sun, moon, rising, personal planet, angle in your chart, you'll be feeling the effects of this as well. You'll be feeling it pretty much the 19th through, let's say, the 21st, maybe even the 22nd, at least till that moon gets out of Capricorn. If you're a Placidus user, then you guys got to find where 22 degrees is in Aries and Cancer in your chart. So you may have to listen to another rising sign to kind of get the big picture. So let's start with my Aries and my Aries risings. Certainly you guys are a big player in this. I think the positive is that you've been here, done this before. And the positive is also that you are kind of in the superior angle of this square, okay? So Chiron is obviously in Aries in your first house of self, of body, and it's coming into a square with Jupiter in Cancer in your fourth house of home and family. So probably what you're experiencing, I think, is just deep healing around identity that's really tied to your roots. And maybe it could mean that, you know, you're feeling like you never quite fit in your family story. Maybe with Mars, your chart ruler, going through Capricorn in your 10th house, you're finding that the way that you're kind of navigating this is like you're really channeling this into career boundaries. I would say to navigate this transit over the next week, we want to focus on forgiving past versions of yourself. I think it would be good to really focus on that kind of pioneering spirit that you have, being a little bit more assertive, being willing to kind of take on, roles at work and other things if you feel like that's the best way to kind of execute some of that energy right now. I also feel like it's about feeling like you belong, and maybe you're feeling like a lot of the success and a lot of the credit and, kind of like love is coming from, a personal or a professional kind of space out in the world. It's not necessarily having to come from with home. Although you may find yourself at like Christmas parties or gatherings this holiday season or New Year's and wanting to talk about how great things are going on at work, and you're getting that recognition maybe from friends or from partners, but you may feel like you're not quite getting that validation from family. And I would say it's okay. Don't worry about that right now. You're going to get some more opportunities to kind of work this out as we get into January later in this next month. And I hope that you guys can really kind of show up and be a leader at this time. And part of that means you also have to take care of yourself. Okay. All right. So let's see what's going on with Taurus and Taurus rising. What's up, Taurus? You guys are going to do this Jupiter in Cancer in your third house of communication, the mind, siblings, traveling, and learning. It is squaring Chiron in Aries in your 12th house. And the 12th house is about the subconscious, what you're doing behind the scenes. Sometimes things you're not always so aware of. It can also represent, what's going on kind of in the back of your mind, but there are things that are kind of private. And obviously this Chiron square is bringing up themes revolving around this expansion and really thinking about, well, what do I have to say and how do I connect with family, or how do I write or communicate with people or deal with neighbors or siblings, and some of these subconscious wounds that have been kind of hanging around. So perhaps there's like old mental patterns or sibling stuff that's kind of surfacing for you. And I think that I would look to the Moon and Mars conjunction taking place in your 9th house to give you a little bit of insight. I feel like it can broaden your perspective. It may mean that, traveling and connecting with family, reaching out to family at a distance, maybe traveling over the holidays might be good for you as well. Doing a little bit of meditation or, tapping into a course where you can connect with other people so you can really kind of heal some of these inner private wounds that can help you feel more confident in how you're communicating and connecting out in the world. I think this is just about writing things out. And I think that what you're going to realize with the Jupiter transit in your third house is that when you're speaking from the heart, when you're able to really, share what's on your mind, whether it's what you have to say or, your voice, can actually help heal other people. There may be things that you're wanting to share with the collective, but you're afraid to say it. You don't know how to kind of find the words. So, you know, great time to be thinking about taking a writing course or doing some traveling or just doing a little bit of journaling to kind of get the clarity that you need to be able to share some of your healing stories with other people. Taurus, good luck. Obviously, you got Chiron coming to your sign next, so you're going to see more of this in, obviously, in July. All right, we've got Gemini and Gemini rising. What's up, Gemini? You guys are going to be experiencing Jupiter and Cancer in your second house of personal self-esteem, money, and income, squaring Chiron and Aries in your 11th house of friends, allies, and goals. All right, so Gemini, I'm kind of getting the vibe that there is some wounding that's going to be kind of coming up revolving around feeling valued with your friends. Whether or not that's feelings of rejection or that people aren't necessarily supportive or happy for you because of success, or you might not feel like they're kind of cheering for you when there can be some really amazing things happening for you. So that could mean you're having growth in your relationships, you're, you know, improving in your job, you're making more money, maybe you're expanding your family, maybe you just got a house. And there's a lot of physical things that are kind of expanding for you, and you're really excited about some of the stuff that's happening, but you might feel like you're not quite getting the traction from your friends that you're hoping, or some of the appreciation, or you're feeling like there's some like false vibes from interactions that you're having with friends or even people online. So I think that with that, these wounds revolving around feeling valued in groups, you want to look to what's going on with the moon and Mars, okay? So it's hanging out in your 8th house, and that means that this is about changing and transforming your shared resources. So it may not necessarily be, well, look what I have, but it's like, you know, look what we were able to build together, or look at how we are expanding, you know, our goals when it comes to our resources. Maybe you're feeling more emotionally and financially secure because you're kind of, you know, banding together with another person. Maybe you're investing in things that truly nourish you. And I think this is really about abundance flowing when you know your own unique worth. You don't need to keep up with the Joneses. You don't need to feel like other people, you know, need to see everything you have. I think that this is a sense of feeling more secure with what you have emotionally, and it's less about physical things. And be mindful that other people can be like a little jealous or envious of things that you have. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be expensive things. It could be some kind of family or home security, you know, or like a new house or something like that, that people are like, oh, that's great, because there is a sense of them feeling inadequate. And that can definitely kind of rock your friendships a little bit. Good luck. And I hope it goes well for you guys with that transit. All right, Cancer and Cancer rising, you're definitely a main player in this Jupiter in your sign in the 1st house, squaring Chiron in your 10th house transit. So especially 20 to 24 degrees. This is kind of like a hot zone for you guys. And you've got a lot of squares and activity that's going to be taking place in cardinal houses, right? So we've got Jupiter in your 1st house where you're expanding your beliefs, your health, your routine, and it's squaring Chiron in your house of career. And so for you guys, what this is bringing up, whether it's your career, your reputation, maybe some, you know, being in limbo work-wise and not exactly knowing what you're doing, or if you're retiring, or if you're going to change job direction, this is showing me that really you're at odds with yourself, okay? And this is about personal growth that's kind of clashing with public wounds. Now, obviously, this can mean that some of you guys are kind of going, well, I'm between jobs, or, you know, I'm not feeling well, or I'm sick, or, you know, I'm healing something, because Jupiter deals with this. And it's going to be about how you are feeling kind of like there's a wound, because you don't exactly know what's emerging in terms of your professional life. People might ask you what you're doing and you're like, I don't really know, or this isn't really working, or I'm not really loving it, or, you know, I'm thinking about making a change. What I would recommend, because Mars and the moon, okay, so you've got Mars, which can be about your children, it can be about a romantic partner, it can also be about creative collaborations that could be taking place professionally. You have somebody that's coming in who's a cheerleader, so I don't know if it's gonna be like one of your kids that's like, I've got you, you've got this, or it's a romantic partner. But this is about partnerships really going to bat for you, showing up for you. And you might have somebody, you know, at a holiday event going like, well, like, how long have you been unemployed? You know, or like, what are you even doing? And a partner will be like, they're applying all the time. They're amazing. They're holding out for something really great, you know, or talking about that you're taking time away from work because you're going back to school, or you're figuring out a new direction. So somebody's going to kind of go to bat for you and kind of support you. I think this is really about showing up authentically and really focusing on blooming into your personal power, because the world is actually really going to need you in this next year when it comes to your leadership. A lot of you guys are going to go into leadership roles. A lot of you guys are going to start businesses. You're going to go into healing professions, and it's built off of the back of healing yourself and receiving support from another person. Good luck, Cancer. I hope it's a good one for you guys. All right, we got Leo and Leo rising. You guys are going to be experiencing Jupiter in Cancer in your 12th house of the hidden subconscious spiritual world, squaring Chiron and Aries in your 9th house of beliefs, travel, higher education, how you see the world. Obviously, you know, this square is interesting because it can definitely shift things regarding your worldview. Okay, so your religious beliefs are changing, your spiritual beliefs are changing, your beliefs about the world, maybe even your beliefs about, you know, your happiness, your joy, right? Jupiter is connected to your 5th house of that. It's also connected to joint finances and resources. Some of you guys could be longing for more travel, longing for, you know, the bigger meaning or the bigger purpose of life. And I would look to Mars in Capricorn, because this is what's going to be kind of helping you move through some of these hidden emotions and these changes in terms of your belief system or about how you're learning or traveling. Now, Mars and the Moon meeting in your 6th house is really kind of saying what's happening here is, you know, you need to focus on routines. You need to ground yourself into routines to heal. Maybe this means you are taking more time to kind of rest and reflect. Maybe it's also about letting go of old stories and that you're freeing them up so that way you can get more creative. Obviously, Capricorn in the 6th, you can get a lot of work done. And I think that this could also be about scheduling management or anything that's kind of connected to prioritizing health. Maybe you're going to be learning a lot about health and incorporating some kind of spiritual practice into that, like meditation or yoga or some kind of flow, to feel a little bit more grounded in your day-to-day routine and be feeling physically and emotionally better. And obviously, I think this is about letting go of old stories, and that's really going to open up and kind of free up some creative fire for you as well. Good luck, Leo. You're next. You're going to be feeling this with the Jupiter square. A lot of it's going to be breakthroughs going on in regards to your career over the summer, so enjoy the healing time while you can get it. All right, we've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You guys are going to experience, obviously, Jupiter in Cancer in your 11th house of friends, allies, social gatherings, and networking. And it's squaring Chiron and Aries in your natal 8th house. Virgo, these squares are kind of this tension and this clash between your dreams and your friends and social gatherings and some kind of intimacy, financial grief, personal transformation that's kind of going on. And so for me, I look at this and I go, all right, there's clearly going to be some kind of like group dynamics that are triggering some deep vulnerabilities for you. And I think that for some Virgo and Virgo risings, it could be being around friends who have a really happy kind of family life, or people who are buying houses or having kids or getting married. You know, this kind of Jupiter energy is going to other people's homes and kind of being around them and then longing for what either other people have. So you want to watch out for that. It can definitely trigger and bring up some insecurities revolving around kind of feeling like I don't have enough, or, you know, I'm never going to get there, or there's some kind of grief maybe that's potentially kind of keeping you from being able to enjoy your holiday time with other people. And I think that I would look to Mars in Capricorn. I feel like, you know, with Mars going through Capricorn in your 5th house, it's a great transit. Obviously, the moon is there, so it can mean that you can still show up in some of these, you know, kind of connections. You might actually meet people, especially if you're a single Virgo. It could also mean that seeing other people's kind of stories inspire you to want to find love, inspire you to want to settle down or start a family, or to make bigger decisions in your relationships, or really prioritize the relationship that you have with children. You want to have fun. You want to be creative. I think really it's just pushing yourself to kind of get out there over the next week or two. And really, fun and romance can help you kind of rebuild your confidence. So I would say for my Virgo risings, choosing supportive connections is really important during this time. Go to the events, put yourself out there. And I think that this is really about your dreams being worthy of the vulnerability, that if you really want some of these things to happen, you have to be able to kind of put yourself in environments where you're going to be meeting people who are kind of, you know, living the life that you would hope to or aspire to kind of have. All right, so good luck, Virgo. Libra and my Libra risings, our charts are on fire. Okay, so if you have anything 20 to 24 degrees of Libra, sun, moon, or rising, you are going to be experiencing Jupiter in your 10th house of career. It is moving through that 10th house, expanding your career, your status, your purpose out in the world. And it is coming into a square with Chiron in your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, and other people. Now, Libra, you know, like I said, pay attention because you're kind of the missing puzzle piece of all of the cardinal energies. So you're really going to feel probably the 19th, 20th, 21st, as the moon goes through here and it triggers this square, that there's just a lot of pressure when it comes to you, what you need to do at home, the actions going on with family, what's happening in relationships, and then what's happening in your career. And it kind of feels like a four-way stop. Not everything can go at the same time, so pace yourself. But your career Jupiter transit is in friction with your Chiron transit in your marriage or relationship house. And so really this can be really interesting because there's a lot of career growth going on for Libra risings. And I think that it's really highlighting relationship wounds. So too much working, you know, too much having to be communicating, connecting with other people, you know, being out in the world. And that coming into friction with relationships. It could also mean you're so busy that it's making it hard for you to connect and date and find someone, or partners feel slighted or they feel like they're not seen. It can also be bringing up for some of you guys that there's just been too much work and now you're kind of scaling back a little bit because you're trying to focus more on kind of like relational dynamics. And there could be a lot of people coming in who want to work with you in some capacity. Libra, look to Mars in Capricorn in your 4th house, which is basically saying you have to root yourself at home right now. You have to put your feet on the ground. You might actually have to do some grounding practices and techniques. And whether that's going to be meditation, putting your feet in some, you know, some grass or some soil, you know, working with cooking or planting herbs or food. That stuff is really going to help you get into the grind of doing the domestic stuff. So that way you're not getting overwhelmed with what's happening at work and creating some relational issues. Now you can have some relationship issues with people at work too. So, you know, business partners and things like that. But I think that if you are balancing giving and receiving, I think things are going to go well. I also think that this is really about practicing having healthy bonds in relationships and having support from the right people. So that way you can grow the way that you want to grow when it comes to your career. Good luck, Libra. Let me know how it goes. Scorpio and Scorpio risings, you guys are going to be experiencing Jupiter in Cancer in your 9th house of belief, education, travel, anything revolving around optimism and you know, legal matters, anything connected also to in-laws, is squaring Chiron in Aries in the natal 6th house. I mean, I guess it does help for you and Pisces that there are some trines, and that may soften this a little bit for you guys. I don't know. You guys will have to tell me. But you're seeing this square between the 9th house and the 6th house where there is tension between traveling, education, your beliefs, and health, you know, pets, routines, or work. It's obvious to me that for my Scorpio risings, there is some tension revolving around expanding your philosophy and what you could be studying, what you're learning, what you believe in, and that's actually coming into some friction with anything in regards to your daily insecurities or your health or your routine. The positive here is that even though there can be some health issues that's creating some problems with traveling, or maybe, you know, there's some issues revolving around education and kind of figuring that out into your daily routine, Mars is going through your 3rd house, and Mars is your chart ruler. So it's exalted here in the 3rd house, which means your mind is on fire. It also means that for a lot of you guys, you're having to communicate a little bit more boldly. Maybe it means that you're making time for reading, making time for studying. Maybe this means that you're determined to travel or you're determined to move, and you're trying to be optimistic about how you're going to make everything kind of work in one kind of, you know, small amount of time or window that you're kind of working with. I also think that this is really about that mind-body practice, right? I've seen a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings that in this last year, they've already had some like addiction issues, or they've had some issues coming up with their immune system, or some issues that have kind of happened with inflammation or allergies, having had Saturn and Neptune in your 6th. And now that you've got Jupiter that is, you know, squaring Chiron, I think a lot of this is going to be recognizing and realizing, you know, what can I heal on my own, and what can I learn about my emotions, and what are they kind of teaching me about my everyday habits. And there can be opportunities to kind of connect with teachers and mentors and other people who can teach you about self-healing techniques or kind of Eastern philosophy, or, you know, different ways of kind of looking at medicine and healing. So, the mind-body practice is important. Communication is important. Moving your body is important. Really keep an eye on what's going on with your lung health as well, as Mars is going through the 3rd house. Speak up. You have to communicate, right? Or you have to kind of stay moving to overcome some of this square. But your truth ultimately, I think, is what's going to set you free. All right, we've got Sag and Sag rising. What's up, my Saggies? Certainly you guys are feeling this, and especially if you got anything 20 to 24 degrees of Sag, Sun, Moon, rising, because not only do you have Chiron and Jupiter that are in a square, but you will have Jupiter that's in conjunct or quincunx your placements. You've seen a lot of this actually happening throughout the last month, like kind of November into December. And Jupiter retrograde, is in your 8th house and it rules your chart. So it's kind of hidden in the 8th house. You can't see it. There's a lot of emotions you're swimming through. There's a lot of changes going on in terms of your intimate relationships, or some of you guys are dealing with grief or loss, big changes in the home, big changes in the family. I've heard from a lot of Sag risings who have been going through this, so I understand. But Jupiter in this square to Chiron from your 8th and your 5th house is really telling me that what's getting highlighted for you guys is intimacy and shared resources, and kind of like a reevaluation of that. And that square to Chiron in your 5th house, how that's impacting your heart space, how it's triggering some heartbreak, or bringing up, childhood related issues, or bringing up some tension and intimacy and romance and relationships. Let's make lemonade. I think that there are some deep emotional bonds that are kind of stirring self-expression wounds. I would be looking to what's going on with Mars and Capricorn, because the Moon-Mars conjunction here is basically saying that this is a time where you're really investing in yourself. Maybe this means that you are investing in a quality item. Maybe it means that you're investing in some new art supplies. Maybe you are going to start getting, creative with cooking, or like with a side hustle or a hobby or a business, or maybe jewelry making, or, working with earthly related things. But also it's just investing in yourself. And it may mean that you're having to make a purchase, or you're spending money on something over the next couple of days, but you're like, you know what? It's going to make me happy, or it's going to make my kid happy, or it's going to, remind me of my childhood, and it's going to feel justified in whatever it is that you're buying. And likely it's going to be something either for your home, or involving a home purchase, or something for a family member. And I think that, if you guys can work with this, you will find that it's actually going to help you build inner security, better confidence. This is about creating from the heart, Sagittarius. And I think that this is also a rebirth that you're kind of going through that is going to quite literally make you unstoppable. Good luck, Sag. Let me know what happens. For my Capricorns and Capricorn rising, what's going on, guys? Pay attention if you have anything from about 20 to 24 degrees, because you're definitely kind of in the hot zone with this transit. You have got Jupiter that is moving through your 7th house of relationships and partnerships, where you're experiencing some kind of expansion when it comes to meeting people, changes in relationships, reevaluating relationships, certainly relationships with family or spouses. And you are going to see it squaring Chiron in your 4th house of home and family. Now, I want you to pay attention, because the Moon and Mars are moving through your sign. And so to me, it looks like there's going to be a trigger where you're going to be kind of having some really heated or intense emotions regarding a home or family matter. And it may mean that you're having to confront somebody about, moving, or, changes going on with your family, or how you're kind of feeling on the inside. And it's very likely that relationships at this time are going to be mirroring some family wounds. And that family wounds are going to be a big theme for Capricorn risings. You guys are going to see Saturn and Neptune going into your chart in your 4th house, in the new year. So it is kind of, for a lot of you guys, going, are relationships changing? If so, does this, make me feel more estranged from my family? Or, am I moving out of a home, and is my relationship changing? Am I moving back home and I have to now deal with these relational issues? Partners can also somehow kind of get entangled with what's going on with parents as well. So watch for that. But I think that for you guys, mind your mood. Be mindful that you could be a little bit more moody. This can also be a sense of you really focusing on the relationship with yourself and going, no, I'm not repeating that pattern of what I've had with my family in my relationships. And I think this is about stepping into your personal power. Jupiter also ties to your 3rd house. So I think a lot of this is about having honest conversations with other people. Maybe it means that, you're having to kind of stand up for yourself a little bit, or make moves and feel like you have to do things more independently. But if you're communicating, you're going to be able to find that you can build, I think, unbreakable, foundations and kind of prepare yourself for what big changes are going to be happening when it comes to your home and your relationships. Good luck, Capricorn. For my Aquarius and Aquarius risings, you guys are going to be experiencing Jupiter in Cancer in your 6th house of health and habits and pets, squaring Chiron and Aries in your 3rd house of communication, siblings, short distance trips, learning. Obviously for you guys, this is going to be an interesting one because this does deal a lot with like learning, communication, the daily grind, work, dealing with coworkers. The Jupiter retrograde is about reevaluating your health, your habits, and your workspace. Having Chiron moving through your 3rd house of communication is really highlighting where you don't know how to speak up and communicate and talk about what hurts or what you're afraid of or what you're working through, and you're kind of holding it inside. So I think this is really going to be about routines for you guys, highlighting mental wounds. Mars and Capricorn in your 12th house is also kind of saying that some of the things that are kind of coming up right now are happening subconsciously. So one thing I would say is you have to really be practicing gentle self-talk with yourself. This is also about healing words that can really change everything. Affirmations, journaling, breath work can all be really beneficial. And I think for some of you guys also, it might mean that there are just subconscious patterns and habits that are kind of coming up that you will lean on that is not actually beneficial for your day-to-day grind, and it's also not beneficial for you mentally. And if I look at this and I'm like, you guys are stressing about work, you're not sleeping well, you're up all night, you're burning the candle at both ends, and that can be really kind of putting your mental and your physical kind of health in a bit of a funk. So be mindful of, finding the words and how to kind of communicate. This is also about dealing with frustration and anger kind of behind the scenes. Mars in the 12th house, I think, would be really wonderful for a lot of you guys to actually take a break from work, rest a little bit, hit a sauna, or, get some extra sleep, do some yoga, or anything that's going to be about kind of releasing some of this pressure that you have been under with making some really big work and health changes. Good luck, Aquarius. And we have Pisces and Pisces rising. You guys are going to be experiencing Jupiter in Cancer coming into a square with Chiron and Aries. Equally important for you, Pisces. I didn't overlook you guys, but I do think that with some of the trines that's still happening to, Saturn and kind of Neptune and personal planets, it's going to be a little bit easier to navigate, but you guys let me know. I'm sure you will still feel it. Jupiter is your traditional chart ruler. It's now retrograde in your 5th house where you're reevaluating your feelings on romantic relationships, creative projects, reevaluating children, family, hobbies, and it is coming into a square with Chiron in your 2nd house of Aries, which is bringing up wounding on a financial level, on a self-esteem level, on a security level, and an independent level. And it's a lot of, okay, I want to grow and expand and do these things, but am I capable? Can I afford it? Am I going to be good enough? Am I going to, be seen as somebody who is successful or kind of valued, or is it going to make me happy? So when I think about that tension between the 5th house and the 2nd house of worth, certainly play and romance can be triggering a lot of value issues for you. And I think Mars and Capricorn is really kind of pointing to, the way out of it. Now, what it's saying for a lot of you guys is that you need to actually take action when it comes to your 11th house. You need community support, you need to be networking, you need to be totally steadfast on your goals. You need to surround yourself with people who support who you're becoming and, helping kind of boost you up and say, you've got this, you can do it. I think it's a great idea. Go full steam ahead, because if you do this, you'll start to see some of these kind of creative endeavors really start to kind of bloom, especially as we're getting into kind of the halfway point of 2026. So my advice for Pisces rising is you guys have to play. You have to go to the parties. You have to hang out with the kids. You have to be feeling a little bit more creative and idealistic. Obviously, you can't break the bank on some of the fun or creative things that you want to do, but express yourself. And I think this is really about recognizing that joy and laughter and fun is actually going to be the best medicine. You just have to figure out who you can surround yourself with and kind of share what you're creating. Good luck, Pisces. All right, guys. Well, that was a lot. But remember, like I said, this square is pressure, and pressure creates diamonds. It's really inviting us to integrate more of our needs to, focus on emotional safety and really harnessing our own personal courage to heal and be ourselves. So as we're wrapping up December of 2025, do remember that this is about leaning into compassion for yourself first, Aries, right? Chiron and Aries. And I think that a lot of us are going to definitely see this play out. So let me know in the comments below, how this is kind of manifesting for you, where the square is happening, how are you guys experiencing it? And don't forget to give me a thumbs up, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Giving you guys all big Cancerian hugs as we go through this transit. And obviously, I will be here if you guys want to join me tomorrow. I'm going to be doing live readings on the channel. Happy to talk about this aspect. I'll be here at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, answering your questions on your natal chart. Transits, new moons, full moons, retrogrades, timing questions, synastry, the whole 9 yards. So don't forget to, meet me there. And otherwise, I will see you guys back here on Sunday for Astro Weather. And if you guys want to see more about me and my work, book a reading, or take one of my astrology courses, there is still time to sign up for my Astro 301 in January. Click the links below and head over to beyondtheveiltarot.com. Until next time, I'll see you guys all very soon. Happy healing and enjoy this transit.